The day they took her, Samuel was 15 and powerless. He watched from the fence as the stranger led her onto the wagon, watched her turn and look back at him with eyes that promised she would return. She never did. Her name was Eliza, and she was the only girl he had ever loved. Her family had sold her for $50 and a milk cow. Samuel's father told him to forget her, to focus on the ranch, to find a wife who was not already gone. But Samuel could not forget. He carved her name into the barn door and promised himself he would find her. 20 years passed. Samuel became a man, then a rancher, then a legend in the territory. He never married. The neighbors whispered, the women tried, but his heart belonged to a ghost. He kept the barn door, even when he rebuilt the barn around it. He kept her name. One autumn, his cook left suddenly, and Samuel placed an ad for a replacement. A woman answered, her letter brief, her handwriting unfamiliar. She arrived on a Tuesday, wearing a bonnet that shadowed her face. She said her name was Mary, and she was grateful for the work. She was quiet, efficient, almost invisible. She kept to the kitchen, spoke only when spoken to, and never looked him in the eye. Samuel thought nothing of her. She was just another hired hand, another ghost passing through his life. He did not look at her hands. One evening, she was carrying a tray of dishes across the dining room when her foot caught on the rug. The tray flew, the dishes shattered, and she fell to her knees. Samuel rushed to help her, and as she reached out to steady herself, her sleeve pulled back. He saw the birthmark. He had seen that mark 1,000 times in his memory. A small crescent on her left wrist, just below the thumb. He had kissed it the day she left, had traced it in his dreams for 20 years. He looked at her face, really looked, and the years fell away. "Eliza," he whispered. She froze. Her hand went to her mouth, and her eyes filled with tears. She tried to stand, to run, to disappear again. But he caught her hand, held it gently, and would not let go. "It is me," he said. "Samuel. I have been looking for you for 20 years. She collapsed into his arms, sobbing, shaking, whispering his name over and over. He held her against his chest, feeling her heart pound against his, and for the first time in 2 decades, he felt whole. "I thought you were dead," he said. "I thought I would never find you." The man who had bought her had been cruel, she said. He had taken her west, worked her like a mule, and when he died, she had been passed to his son. She had escaped finally, changed her name, and drifted from town to town, too ashamed to go home. She had not known Samuel was here. He took her to the barn, showed her the door where he had carved her name. She touched the letters, her fingers tracing the wood, and wept again. "You kept it," she said. "All these years." He nodded, unable to speak. He had kept it because he had never stopped believing. That night, they sat on the porch, watching the stars. She told him about the years she had lost, the children she had never had, the dreams she had buried. He told her about the ranch, the neighbors who had tried to marry him off, the nights he had talked to her photograph. "I have nothing to offer you," she said. "I am old, tired, and broken." He took her hand, pressed it to his heart. "You are everything I have ever wanted. You are the reason I never gave up. You are my home." She looked at him, and for the first time, she smiled. They were married in the spring, in the meadow behind the barn where he had carved her name. The whole valley came, the neighbors who had whispered about him now cheering. She wore a white dress, and in her hair, she wore a wildflower he had picked from the field where they had first kissed. The years that followed were gentle. She grew strong again, her laughter returning, her hands healing. He grew old beside her, his face lined, his heart full. They never spoke of the 20 years apart. They did not need to. They had found each other, and that was enough. On the night of their 10th anniversary, they sat on the porch, watching the stars. She leaned against him, her head on his shoulder, her hand in his. "Do you remember the day you hired me?" she asked. He laughed. a low rumble in his chest. I remember thinking you were the best cook I had ever had. And then you saw the birthmark, she said. He kissed her forehead, her cheek, her lips. And then I saw the birthmark, and I saw you, and I knew that every day I had waited was worth it. They sat in silence, the stars bright above them, the barn door with her name standing guard. Some loves are not bound by time. Some promises are kept without words. Samuel had waited 20 years for a girl who had been sold away. Eliza had survived 20 years of darkness, hoping she would find her way back. And in the quiet of the mountains, two souls who had been torn apart finally rested.